There are images you expect to see. And then, there are those you pray no one ever finds. A grainy clip, a flash of white fabric under moonlight. Laughter, familiar, haunting, royal. And then a voice. Low, confident. A voice the world never thought it would hear again in the same sentence as Meghan Markle. But there it was, caught in the shadows of a yacht party that was never meant to be remembered. Until Tom Bower, of all people, unearthed it. Yes, that Tom Bower. The same man who tore into the carefully curated facade of Meghan Markle in his explosive biography. The same investigative juggernaut who's made a career out of chasing the powerful into corners they thought they'd long escaped. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And now, he's found something they didn't even know still existed. Video footage, never before seen, featuring Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew. At the same party, on the same yacht, before the world knew either of them for the controversies they now embody. But what does it show? Why are their teams scrambling in silence? And what, exactly, are Meghan and Andrew begging Tom Bower not to reveal? Because make no mistake, they are begging. Not in the tabloids, not in the headlines, but behind closed doors, through late-night calls, through emissaries who speak in veiled threats and cautious, desperate tones. This isn't just about image. It's about survival. And the footage? It may be the final crack in a dam that's held back a tidal wave of secrets for far too long. But let's rewind. Because to understand the shock of this moment, you need to understand the stage it was set on. Picture this. A luxury yacht off the Amalfi Coast. The summer sun dipping below the horizon, painting the sea in gold. Cameras off. Phones confiscated. No press. No paparazzi. Only the elite. The untouchables. The real power players who rule from the shadows while the world looks at the wrong people. This was no ordinary gathering. This was a recruitment ground. A reputation factory. A networking labyrinth designed to intertwine the lives of those the world would one day worship, fear, or condemn. And that night, two names that had never been mentioned together in public were caught in the same frame, on the same deck, surrounded by the same players. Meghan, Andrew. You weren't supposed to know that. But now, it's too late. Why now? Why is this story exploding at this very moment? Because timing, dear viewer, is never accidental. Let's break it down. Tom Bower has been working on something. That much we know. Whispers in publishing circles, leaks from his legal team, and strange, unexplained questions to yacht security firms from over a decade ago. Why would Bower, known for exposing corruption and scandal at the very top, suddenly be chasing down guest lists from 2006? Because something didn't add up. And then, the footage. We don't know how he got it. We don't even know if he should have it. But what we do know is this. The minute he did, everything changed. Meghan Markle, still fighting to pivot her image toward political legitimacy, philanthropy, and high-profile influence, now faces a visual reminder of a past she has never acknowledged. And Prince Andrew, barely hanging onto the last strands of royal protection, is once again thrust into the spotlight in a way Buckingham Palace simply cannot spin. This is not a still photo. This is not hearsay. This is video. And if even a few seconds make it online, every narrative carefully built by both camps could collapse like a house of cards in a hurricane. Let's be clear, this is not about what you think you know. Because for years, Meghan's rise was marked by reinvention. From deal or no deal briefcase girl, to Suits actress, to humanitarian duchess, to podcast queen, to possibly presidential hopeful. And Andrew? From Randy Andy playboy, to honorable Royal Navy veteran, to disgraced prince exiled from public life due to Epstein entanglements and civil lawsuits. Two very different stories. Two very different falls from grace. But now, one very tangled thread. What if the connection was there all along? What if, before the fairy tale and before the scandal, they shared a space designed for the powerful to mingle far from scrutiny, but someone forgot to burn the tape? And what if Tom Bower is the man willing to press play? You have to ask yourself, who stands to lose the most if this goes public? Is it Meghan, who has spent years denying any past affiliations with the yacht circuit, rumors she was once part of elite social networking parties in the Middle East or Mediterranean, whispered claims she's always brushed off as sexist fabrications? Or is it Andrew, who has no room left for redemption and whose mere proximity to another potential scandal could see him stripped of even the last remaining royal privileges. Or is it both? Because when reputations are weaponized and image becomes currency, even the suggestion of a shared past can destroy empires. And that's what makes this footage so dangerous. Not just what it shows, but what it suggests, what it opens the door to, and what it confirms for those who've been watching this game from the sidelines, suspicious but silenced. Let's talk about what's not being said. You won't see Buckingham Palace issuing a press release about this. You won't find Meghan's lawyers launching lawsuits over a grainy clip just yet, because to react would be to confirm. And so, the silence. But that silence, it's loud, and Bauer knows it. He's watching, measuring every move, every non-denial, every lawyer who suddenly cancels a meeting, every Netflix producer who quietly backs out of a project, every former Yacht staffer who suddenly wants to talk, anonymously. He knows the game, and right now he's winning. Because Meghan and Andrew are reacting the only way they can, not with aggression, but with fear, not with spin, but with quiet desperation. And according to insiders, they've both attempted to reach out. Not through official channels, of course. That would be too obvious. But through intermediaries. Whispers. Soft threats. Emotional appeals. Bauer's response. Silence. Because when you're holding the footage, they don't control the narrative anymore. So what's actually in the clip? That's the question, isn't it? And it's the question we'll begin to answer, slowly, frame by frame, chapter by chapter. Because to understand the full story, you need to see the connections. The yacht, the guest list, the silent witnesses, the other royals, the camera, and the chilling realization that some secrets were never meant to stay buried. But here's a final thought before we dive into the first chapter. Sometimes, the most dangerous evidence isn't the one that proves guilt beyond a shadow of a doubt. Sometimes, it's the one that simply raises the right question, in front of the wrong people, at the perfect moment. And that's exactly what this footage does. It raises a question neither Meghan Markle nor Prince Andrew can answer without burning bridges, reputations, and carefully constructed lies. Because one frame may be harmless, but 1 second of truth, that can destroy a dynasty. And as you're about to see, this is only the beginning. Because what Tom Bauer found next, what he saw in that second playback, would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What if you weren't supposed to find it, but you did anyway? Tom Bauer wasn't looking for Meghan Markle. Not this time. He'd already laid that story bare. The ghosted father, the curated rise, the orchestrated courtship with Prince Harry. It was all in his best-selling exposé. And to the world, Bauer had moved on. Another book, another target. But then, something landed in his inbox. Or was it slid across a table in a smoky, anonymous pub corner? Maybe a nondescript envelope left on his doorstep like some scene from a Cold War thriller. No one knows for sure. Because Bauer isn't talking. Not yet. But what has leaked? In whispers from close contacts, hushed leaks from researchers, and careful teases from his publisher, is this. While researching material completely unrelated to the Sussexes or the royal family, Tom Bauer found something stunning. A file. A clip. A few seconds of shaky, handheld footage. And in that clip, 2 figures. 1 man, 1 woman, obscured by the glare of Mediterranean moonlight, framed against the backdrop of a yacht so luxurious it made Buckingham Palace look modest. The man, familiar, broad-shouldered, laughing. The woman, elegant, sharp, moving with practiced ease through a crowd of champagne and secrets. And as the camera zoomed in, as the audio sharpened, as the grain cleared just enough to betray a few unmistakable facial features, Tom Bauer stopped breathing. Because what he saw wasn't just scandalous. It was impossible. Wait, let's back up. What was Bauer working on in the first place? A completely different investigation. Something financial. Perhaps political. A Russian oligarch? A European prince with ties to Monaco's shadier circles? Insiders suggest Bauer had been given access to a private video archive, a collection of yacht party recordings confiscated after a tax probe involving international money laundering. Footage the public was never supposed to see. The parties in question weren't merely lavish. They were strategic. Business deals were brokered over caviar. Young actresses mingled with aging billionaires. Politicians drank just enough to forget the cameras were rolling, or so they thought. And among them, Two names that, if connected even slightly, would set the internet on fire. Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew. You see, both had been associated, separately, with these kinds of gatherings, but never together. Until now. Bauer leaned in, pressed pause, rewound, zoomed. It couldn't be. Was it Meghan? The lighting wasn't perfect. The camera wobbled slightly, as if the filmer had won too many glasses of Dom Perignon. But the smile, it was familiar. The arch of the eyebrow, the unmistakable cadence of her laugh. And then the camera panned again. Prince Andrew, clear as day, wearing a white linen shirt, no tie, top button undone, speaking animatedly with a group of men, one of whom Bauer recognized from another investigation entirely. A known associate of Jeffrey Epstein. The date stamp on the video? Early summer, 2007. Meghan would have been 25, still struggling in Hollywood, still years away from Suits. Andrew? In his prime, untouchable, cocky, floating between titles and Twilight deals. And yet, there they were, in the same frame, on the same yacht. During a weekend no one was supposed to remember. What happens to a man like Bauer when he finds a clip like this? Does he celebrate? No. He goes quiet. Because people have vanished for less. Let's not pretend otherwise. The kind of people who host $100 million yachts off the Amalfi Coast do not tolerate exposure. Not in books, not in blogs, not in Bauer's manuscripts. But Tom knew what he had. And before he did anything else, he began verifying. He called in his trusted circle, a digital forensics expert, a facial recognition analyst, a yacht registry archivist. He kept things vague, at first. I've got footage, he said. Need help confirming the identities of two individuals. One might be a royal. The other, a future royal. That raised eyebrows. And questions. But the experts did their job. One by one, they came back with the same answer. It's them. So what was the plan? At first, Bauer didn't have one. He shelved the footage, placed it into an encrypted drive, buried beneath layers of unrelated documents. The sort of hiding spot only someone paranoid or deeply intelligent would design. And then he waited. He started asking questions again, quietly, to people who owed him favors. To security guards who used to work for yacht crews. To old money publicists who once had clients that mysteriously vanished from red carpets without explanation. Each breadcrumb led to another. A blurred-out guest list. A customs log from a private port. A leaked invoice from a caterer who serviced the yacht. No one outright admitted it. But the implication was loud enough. That party happened. They were both there. And someone filmed it. Now, that someone was Tom Bauer. But let's pause and ask the question that matters most. Why does this matter? Why should we care if Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew were once at the same yacht party? Isn't that just coincidence? Well, let's examine that. Both have denied involvement in the yacht circuit. Meghan, particularly, has been accused by certain tabloids of having attended elite gatherings hosted by foreign dignitaries, tech moguls, and billionaires interested in young actresses. She's always rejected the claims as sexist, racist, and rooted in anti-woman conspiracy theories. Perhaps she's right. But video doesn't lie. And if she was at this party, what else might be true? As for Andrew, his reputation speaks for itself. His association with Epstein alone has made any sighting of him at a yacht party instantly suspicious. Now imagine him on the same yacht as Meghan. Not years apart. Not different continents. But the same boat. Same party. Same camera shot. Suddenly, the timelines merge. And everything gets harder to explain. As Bauer began piecing together the context, something else happened. A message. Anonymous. Encrypted. No traceable IP. It arrived through a dead-drop email account Bauer only uses for whistleblowers. The subject line? Stop. You don't understand what you found. Inside, a single sentence. Some tapes weren't meant to be found. That one most of all. No sender. No signature. Just an attached image. A still from the footage Bauer had been examining. Same angle. Same party. Different time stamp. Which meant only one thing. Someone else had this footage. Or had access to it. Bauer was no longer the only one in the room holding a match. Now there were others. And some were already trying to put out the fire. He knew what came next. Leaks. Smear campaigns. Anonymous discrediting efforts. And then the calls. Not directly from Meghan or Andrew. That would be too obvious. But from people close to them. A lawyer who once represented Meghan's mother on a minor real estate case suddenly asked to catch up. A former royal courtier, long retired, called Bauer's publisher and said he had grave concerns about potential reputational damage. A mysterious donation offer was made to Bauer's preferred charity, a sum so large and so oddly timed that the foundation flagged it as suspicious. Classic suppression tactics. Polite, understated, laced with veiled menace. But Tom Bauer doesn't scare easily. Not anymore. And as he sat at his desk, watching that footage again, frame by frame, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. At the edge of the screen, a reflection in a champagne flute. Blurry, distorted, but unmistakable. A third figure. One who shouldn't have been there. One whose presence would raise the stakes higher than either Meghan or Andrew could ever imagine. And that changed everything. What if the safest place to hide a scandal was in plain sight? Not behind palace gates. Not inside billion-dollar estates with guards and red velvet ropes. But floating, offshore, just beyond the reach of laws, cameras, and consequences. That's what these yachts were. Not just luxury toys for the ultra-rich. Not just weekend retreats for bored royals and ambitious starlets. They were fortresses, seaborne kingdoms, drifting spaces where rules bent, alliances formed, and futures were bought. Often with charm, whispers, and occasionally silence. And on one of those yachts, in one single night, Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew shared a moment that neither of them ever wanted remembered. Until now. Let's take you there. Close your eyes and imagine it. The summer of 2007. The Mediterranean glittering under a cloudless sky. Off the coast of Sardinia, or maybe Ibiza, the exact location remains murky. A 300-foot mega-yacht anchored discreetly near a private cove, its hull gleaming like polished marble. On board, not a party, a summit. Guests didn't RSVP. They were selected. Handpicked by billionaires, foreign dignitaries, and shadowy social fixers known only by pseudonyms. The kind of people whose names never appear in tabloids, only in offshore trusts. This wasn't about music or dancing. This was about access, power, networking at its most elite and untraceable level. So how did Meghan get there? That's the first question most people ask. And for years, the answer's been shrouded in rumor, speculation, and carefully crafted denials. But let's lay out what we do know. In 2007, Meghan Markle was not yet a household name. She was a working actress in Los Angeles, auditioning for small roles, networking at events, and building her brand as a rising beauty with brains. It was also the era of the Soho House set, a social circle known for connecting aspiring talent to influential backers in film, fashion, and finance. Within those elite parties, a select few were occasionally invited to European retreats. Not official events, of course. Never anything as tacky as that. Just gatherings. And it's in this gray zone, between invitation and expectation, appearance and implication, that Meghan's name started circulating. Some say she was flown out as part of a lifestyle influencer package. Others claim she was a last-minute guest, brought in by a wealthy Middle Eastern businessman who admired her poise. But all of them agree on one thing. She was there, on that yacht, at that party. And what about Andrew? His presence is far less surprising. This was his domain. Prince Andrew had long cultivated an international reputation for sailing the high seas in style. He was, as many have said, the royal who never met a yacht he didn't love. Post-divorce, pre-scandal, and firmly ensconced in royal favor, Andrew used these floating worlds as informal diplomacy. Or at least, that's what Buckingham Palace liked to call it. In reality, he was networking. Brokerage deals, meeting arms dealers, oil magnates, financiers, people who couldn't just waltz into Windsor but had no trouble stepping onto a superyacht. This particular party? It was hosted by a notorious oligarch with dual citizenship and rumored ties to offshore banking operations. Let's call him M. His guest lists read like the UN's naughty list, and Andrew was one of his most reliable attendees. So when the guest manifest from the party leaked, in part, to one of Bauer's contacts, there was no surprise seeing Andrew's code name. But Meghan's? That was different. What made this yacht different from all the rest? Simple. It had surveillance. Not the kind you'd think. Not security cameras or CCTVs. But footage taken for a private documentary, that never saw the light of day. Whispers suggest M wanted to produce an exclusive visual diary of his inner circle. A kind of home movie meets blackmail insurance, just in case anyone forgot who was in control. Professional videographers were hired. Discreet, paid in cash, bound by NDAs so strict they couldn't even confirm what country they were shot in. That footage, locked away for over a decade, was never meant to escape the vault, until a copy ended up in Bauer's hands. And it told a story no one wanted told. Let's go back to the night of the party. The sun has just set. The yacht's deck is bathed in golden lamplight. Live musicians play low jazz near the pool. Staff in crisp, white uniforms serve caviar and rose. Guests move like ghosts, quiet, graceful, careful. And then we see her, Meghan, wearing a pale cream dress, her hair up in a loose bun. She's laughing, talking to two older men, one of whom is rumored to be a billionaire investor based in the UAE. She looks at ease, comfortable, like she belongs. Minutes later, Andrew appears from the lower deck. He's wearing a navy blazer over an open-collared shirt. He walks straight to the bar, greets the host, and is handed a glass of whiskey. Their eyes don't meet immediately, but they will, because just before the clip ends, as Bauer rewinds and rewatches, a waiter walks between them. And their paths cross. It's brief, a nod, a faint smile, but unmistakable. A moment, caught on film. And that moment is why the footage matters. You're probably asking, couldn't this be innocent? Sure, maybe it was just a fleeting encounter. Two guests, one party, zero implications. Except, why hide it? Why the NDAs? Why the legal threats? Why the panic in Meghan and Andrew's camps when they heard Bauer had it? Because innocent people don't beg for silence. And what we see on that yacht is more than a chance meeting. It's a glimpse behind the curtain, into the world they've spent years pretending never existed. And for Meghan, who's worked tirelessly to position herself as a symbol of modern feminism, diplomacy, and self-made success, this footage represents a threat, not just of scandal, but of context, the kind that reshapes everything we thought we knew. There's something else, something more chilling. In the background of one clip, just as the camera pans across the crowd, a man, standing in shadow, watching, not mingling, not smiling, just watching. And when Bauer froze the frame, lightened it, and compared it to a blurry image from another yacht party 5 years later, the face matched, an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Suddenly, the atmosphere changes. This isn't just a party. It's a web. And Meghan and Andrew? They weren't just guests. They were threads. And yet, the footage doesn't end there. The yacht's upper deck, late into the night, a smaller group gathered around a table. Cigars, cognac, whispered conversations. Meghan isn't in this scene, but Andrew is. And so is someone else, someone we'll meet in the next chapter. Someone whose voice, once enhanced and isolated from the background hum of laughter, delivered a line that made Bauer's blood run cold. Because it wasn't just a line. It was a threat. And the man who said it? He wasn't talking about business. He was talking about insurance. And the footage? It was the insurance. Which begs the question, who else knew it existed? And how far would they go to keep it hidden? Where does a rumor become a weapon? And when does silence become a lie? It started as a whisper, a blind item on an anonymous gossip blog, a vague Reddit thread, a source close to the situation who never quite had a name. Meghan Markle, long before the titles, the Netflix deals, and the royal spotlight, was supposedly involved in the world of yacht parties. Not as a guest, not as a tourist, but as something else entirely. The term they used? Yacht girl. Loaded. Ugly. Dangerous. And for years, it was dismissed. Laughed off. Thrown into the pile of sexist vitriol often hurled at successful women who dared arise. But now, with Tom Bauer's footage revealing Meghan at one of the very yacht events she was rumored to have attended, the question is no longer a matter of if. It's a matter of how much was true all along. Let's go back. Who first said it? Not a tabloid. Not a journalist. Not even an enemy. It was a talent agent. One who, years ago, worked with small-time actresses in Los Angeles, helping them land roles, walk carpets, and sometimes take more discreet gigs. In an off-the-record comment to a Hollywood Insider blog, the agent claimed that several actresses, including a now royal, once took part in elite yacht gatherings, paid trips with powerful men, under the guise of event hosting or networking. Nothing illegal, but ethically murky. Social climbing disguised as summer fun. The implication? These weren't just parties. They were additions, transactions, social currency being traded on the open sea. And Meghan's name, according to this agent, came up more than once. But how reliable is this? Good question. The world of elite social matchmaking is notoriously opaque. There's no paper trail, no contracts, no LinkedIn listings that say companion, billionaire yacht soiree. It's all whispered, until someone decides to talk. And over the years, more and more people did talk. A yacht crew member claimed Meghan was once on board a vessel owned by a Middle Eastern oil tycoon. As part of a group of celebrity guests, a former event planner leaked screenshots of a guest list that included Meghan's early-stage email address, alongside known socialites and actresses. One British tabloid ran a piece suggesting she had been spotted on a yacht off Mykonos in 2010, weeks before she booked a now-forgotten modeling gig in Dubai. None of this was definitive, but when Bauer found footage showing Meghan on a luxury yacht, the exact kind connected to these allegations, the rumors gained new weight. And suddenly, everything changed. Here's the contradiction. Meghan has never addressed this. Not once. In all her interviews, all the profiles, all the tell-alls, she has never uttered a word about these yacht allegations. Not to Oprah, not to The Cut, not even in her docuseries with Harry. She's spoken about being broke, eating cheap salads from Trader Joe's, driving a beat-up Ford Escape. But never about the luxury trips, the yacht getaways, the whispered invitations from elite circles. Why? Some argue she didn't want to dignify the rumors. Others say she was deliberately avoiding landmines from a past she'd rather erase. But in doing so, she created a vacuum, and in that vacuum, speculation flourished. And now that we've seen her on that yacht, that silence is louder than ever. Let's talk about the psychology of denial. When someone climbs quickly, from obscurity to fame, from auditions to palaces, people naturally want to understand how. Hard work, talent, timing, or something else. This is where Meghan's story becomes combustible. Because she marketed herself, very effectively, as a self-made woman. Biracial, divorced, American, the ultimate underdog turned duchess. It was a narrative that worked. Until footage like Bauer's comes along and hints at a second narrative running parallel to the first. One where success wasn't just earned. It was engineered, brokered, strategically maneuvered in places far from the public eye. That doesn't mean Meghan did anything wrong, but it does mean the story isn't as clean as she wanted the world to believe. And that, for her, is the real danger. So what is a yacht girl, anyway? Let's break it down. In the early 2000s, a term emerged within Hollywood and European circles referring to young women, often models, influencers, or actresses, who were invited to yacht parties hosted by extremely wealthy men. These weren't escorts in the traditional sense. They were arm candy, companions, conversation pieces. Some were paid. Others were promised exposure. Some just saw it as glamorous networking. But behind the glamour was often expectation, implicit or explicit. Smile, flirt, play the part, and maybe, just maybe, you'd land a connection that would change your life. For Meghan, appearing on that yacht, surrounded by those names, opens the door to speculation that she was part of this world, whether knowingly or not. Again, there is no evidence of criminal wrongdoing. But when your brand is built on integrity, philanthropy, and breaking glass ceilings, even proximity to this scene can be catastrophic. Let's revisit the footage. Meghan, standing with a man identified only as N. N is a former banker turned film financier, known for hosting yacht events with high-profile guests. He's been linked to several it girls in the past, many of whom transitioned from modeling to major acting roles after spending time in his inner circle. He's smiling at Meghan. She laughs. He hands her a drink. They talk. No touching. No scandalous behavior. Just familiarity. Comfort. That's what makes this so powerful. She looks like she belongs there. This wasn't a lost tourist stumbling into luxury. This was someone who understood the rules of the game and played them well. And now, the backlash begins. After whispers of the footage began surfacing, Meghan's team went into overdrive. Quietly, of course. No statements, no tweets, no official denials. But suddenly, online videos discussing the yacht rumors were demonetized. Instagram accounts that had posted old paparazzi photos of Meghan in beach attire were hit with copyright strikes. A prominent podcaster who teased an episode on the Meghan yacht theory mysteriously pulled the episode hours before release, citing personal safety concerns. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe someone doesn't want the world digging too deep. Because if the rumors are fiction, why act like they're fact? Here's what Bauer's clip doesn't show. It doesn't show Meghan doing anything illegal. It doesn't show her behaving inappropriately. It doesn't even show her with Andrew for more than a brief moment. But what it does show, and this is key, is that she was there, which means every past denial by omission is now suspect. And in the court of public opinion, omission can be just as damaging as a lie, especially when your entire image is built on honesty, vulnerability, and authenticity. So now, the question becomes, if Meghan misled the world about this chapter, what else isn't she telling us? Let's not forget Andrew in this equation. He's no stranger to scandal. And any new footage of him mingling with women at elite yacht parties, especially those who later become high-profile figures, is a PR disaster. But for Meghan, it's more complicated. Because Andrew's story is already broken. Meghan's? She's still writing hers. And Tom Bauer just handed her a chapter she never wanted published. So what now? The footage exists. Bauer has it. And according to sources close to his publisher, he's not done. He's working on something bigger. A follow-up. A new project. And this time, the yacht footage isn't a footnote. It's the centerpiece. And if Meghan and Andrew are worried now, they should be terrified of what Bauer found in the next clip. Because someone else appears in that frame. And this person, if correctly identified, links Meghan's quiet moment on a yacht to a very different world. One with ties to power, to scandal, and to people who don't take kindly to cameras. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What if the moment you wanted to forget synced perfectly with someone else's darkest secret? That's the nightmare Prince Andrew finds himself in now. Because when Tom Bauer examined that footage, that grainy, flickering, irrefutable proof, he didn't just see Meghan Markle standing in a place she always denied being. He saw Andrew, standing exactly where everyone hoped he'd never be caught again. And when Bauer mapped the video's timestamp against publicly known yacht trips, something terrifyingly precise emerged. A perfect overlap. Meghan's appearance on the yacht wasn't random. Andrew's presence wasn't isolated. Their timelines, once worlds apart, suddenly intersected like a red thread on a conspiracy board. And for the palace? That's a disaster. Because Prince Andrew's yachting history isn't just scandalous. It's radioactive. Let's talk about Andrew's floating years. From the late 1990s to the mid-2000s, Prince Andrew enjoyed a semi-royal, semi-rogue lifestyle that most of the press politely ignored, until Epstein. He was the Duke of York, Queen Elizabeth's favorite son, and the face of Britain's trade relationships abroad. But while his press releases boasted about business diplomacy and naval experience, insiders whispered about something else. About the parties, the girls, the yachts. Because Andrew wasn't just attending Mediterranean getaways. He was known for them. Ask anyone from Monte Carlo's inner circle or closed-doors lounges. They'll tell you. If there was a yacht, Andrew knew about it. He had connections to billionaires across Europe, the Middle East, and America, including, notably, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The palace might deny it now, but the photos exist. The flight logs exist. The witnesses exist. And now, with Bauer's new footage, a yacht link exists. Tying Andrew to Meghan in a way no one predicted and no royal crisis manager is prepared for. Let's zoom into one specific summer, 2007. Why? Because that's when the footage Bauer uncovered is allegedly dated. Summer 2007, post-divorce, pre-scandal, but peak Andrew. That year, multiple yachts are confirmed to have hosted him across the Mediterranean. According to a leaked log from Port Hercules in Monaco, Prince Andrew boarded a vessel belonging to a now-deceased Russian billionaire in late June. A week later, he was spotted on another yacht in Ibiza, this time in the company of two European aristocrats and a Hollywood producer with ties to Miramax. And during the second week of July, the week the footage appears to be from, he was photographed boarding a third vessel off the coast of Sardinia. That vessel? A luxury mega-yacht named the Seraphim. 3 decks, Private cinema. Zero media access. Its ownership was masked by offshore entities. But Bauer, through meticulous documentation, linked it to a shadowy financier whose name has appeared on more than one intelligence watch list. And now, guess who else appears in footage allegedly filmed on the Seraphim that week? Meghan Markle. Coincidence? Maybe once. But not after the timestamps align. Not after Andrew's history with that boat. And that crowd is fully unpacked. Andrew's yacht parties weren't just vacations. They were strategic and risky. He used them to court foreign investment. To entertain shady players the Crown couldn't be seen dining with in London. And while Buckingham Palace officially labeled these outings as private engagements, several watchdog groups have long suspected they blurred the line between diplomacy and indulgence. Women were present. Always. Many young. Some famous. Others carefully anonymous. And while Andrew was never formally charged with misconduct aboard these yachts, his association with individuals later convicted of sex trafficking has cast a long, irreversible shadow, which is why footage of him smiling, relaxed, casually mingling on deck, with Meghan Markle just feet away, is nuclear. Because if even one detail from that night appears to mirror the conditions described in other allegations against him, then this footage isn't just a time capsule. It's evidence. And the palace knows it. Let's examine the palace response, or lack thereof. Inquiries into Andrew's travel schedule for that year have been met with a now familiar refrain. No comment. Private trip. Not relevant to royal duties. But inside royal circles, there's panic. Multiple insiders report that the Queen's former private secretary was briefed on the Bauer footage within 24 hours of its rumored existence. And while the monarchy has since distanced itself from Andrew, stripping him of titles, patronages, and duties, they still fear one thing: collateral damage. Because Meghan is also tied to the Crown. And if both are linked, however tangentially, to the same controversial circle, then questions will be asked. Questions that could crack open the monarchy's carefully managed image of innocence. So how did Meghan and Andrew even end up on the same yacht? Simple. They were invited. But not by the same person. According to Bauer's contacts, Meghan was brought in via a Hollywood fixer known only as A man with dual passports, a private jet, and a Rolodex that included tech billionaires, Gulf royalty, and casting agents. Andrew, meanwhile, was a guest of M, the oligarch who owned the Seraphim. Two handlers. One yacht. One incredibly awkward overlap. At the time, Meghan was still climbing. Andrew, already descending. But in that brief intersection, their timelines collided. And now, 18 years later, that collision may cost them everything. We need to talk about reputational contagion. When one figure is scandalized, proximity becomes poison. And in this case, both Meghan and Andrew are vulnerable. Andrew's presence alone taints everyone in his vicinity. But Meghan's modern-day positioning as a humanitarian, feminist, and political voice makes this even more complicated. Because the court of public opinion doesn't need guilt. It just needs association. If she was on that yacht, and Andrew was there, and others known for trafficking and corruption were also present, then the story becomes unstoppable. Not because it's proven, but because it fits. And in the media, perception is reality. There's another wrinkle, the second frame. According to one of Bauer's research aides, a second clip shows Andrew in conversation with a man later convicted of aiding Epstein in arranging social introductions on yachts. The audio is faint, but one phrase stands out. She'll be perfect. Just make sure she smiles. No names are attached. No context. But the timing is damning. Because that line is said mere minutes before the camera captures Meghan stepping onto the deck. Coincidence? Maybe. But what if it's not? What if Meghan wasn't just a random guest? What if she was invited? Selected? And if so, by whom? And why? Andrew's track record makes this even worse. He's already denied knowing Epstein well, despite photos, flight logs, and allegations. He's already denied misconduct, despite settling a civil lawsuit for millions. And now, this footage places him back in the exact environment he claimed to have distanced himself from. Not in 2019. Not in 2015. But in 2007. The exact era his accusers reference. Which means the Bauer footage could reopen investigations. Reignite public fury. and destroy the last shred of plausible deniability Andrew ever had. And for Meghan, it's worse, because the footage doesn't just show her near Andrew. It shows her smiling at him, and whether she remembers it or not. The camera did. What happens when two damaged legacies meet at sea? They either heal, or they implode. And if what Bauer found next is what sources are claiming, then the yacht wasn't just a coincidence. It was a convergence. And in the next chapter, we explore the footage itself, frame by frame, and discover what the eye misses at first glance. Because hidden in the background is a gesture, so subtle, so easy to overlook. Yet once you see it, you can never unsee it. What if the truth wasn't in the words, but in the frame no one ever paused on? When Tom Bauer first hit play, he didn't expect much. A few seconds of grainy, handheld footage. Typical yacht scene. Champagne flutes clinking, soft music playing, soft-lit silhouettes moving in and out of the shot like ghosts. Nothing explosive, until he slowed it down, paused, zoomed, enhanced, and suddenly, the background shifted. The angles revealed what the eye couldn't catch in real time. Details, glimpses, expressions. That's when it all changed. Because hidden in the corner of one frame, just for a flicker of a second, is a moment that turns this from casual party footage into something far more insidious. A gesture, seemingly innocent, devastating when you understand who's doing it and why. Let's rewind the tape to second 007. The camera moves slowly over the deck. It's night. There's laughter. A jazz quartet plays faintly in the background. The screen stutters, typical of old digital camcorders. And then, there she is. Meghan, standing at the portside railing, cocktail in hand, framed by the yacht's signature string lighting. She's mid-conversation, animated, engaged. The man beside her, tall, tan, wearing a dark shirt with white trim, is partially turned toward the camera. His identity? Still unconfirmed. Possibly a European industrialist. Possibly someone far more controversial. Bauer still hasn't said. But it's Meghan who holds the frame. She's confident, composed. The opposite of a guest who stumbled in by accident. This isn't a woman attending her first luxury event. This is someone who's been here before. And that is what made Bauer's stomach turn. Second 011, enter Andrew. From the right side of the frame, Prince Andrew walks into view. He's alone at first, holding a glass, something dark. He's laughing, relaxed, not posturing the way he does at royal engagements. This isn't the man we see in photos with medals and strained smiles. This is the real Andrew. Unfiltered, free, and dangerously comfortable. He doesn't seem to notice the camera. Or maybe he does, and just doesn't care. He walks past Meghan's group, pauses, a nod, a smile. Their eyes meet, and for the briefest moment, the footage captures recognition. Like they've met before, or like they've already spoken that night. Bauer rewound it 15 times, frame by frame, analyzing the head tilt, the blink, the subtle parting of Meghan's lips as Andrew passes by. Was it a greeting? A warning? A confirmation? No one can say for sure. But what happened next left no room for doubt. Second 016, the gesture. This is the frame that matters. Just after Andrew walks out of view, the camera pans left, lazily, almost accidentally, toward the main lounge doors. In the foreground, people are dancing. Casual, carefree. But in the background, a man stands near the glass, partially obscured, face in shadow, holding a drink in one hand, and with the other. He taps his index and middle finger to his temple, twice. Then he points toward Meghan. Once, sharp, deliberate, then lowers his hand and walks out of view. No one else notices. Not in the scene. Not at the time. But Bauer caught it. And that's when the paranoia set in. Because in the world of social surveillance, the kind Bauer's covered in intelligence exposés before, that gesture means something. It means, I see her. We're watching. Mark this one. And when Bauer cross-referenced this clip with surveillance footage from past intelligence leaks, including ops run on political figures and celebrities, the gesture matched a known signal used by private security and fixers on assignment. So who was marking Meghan? And more importantly, why? This wasn't a documentary. It wasn't someone filming a memory. The way the camera lingers, the way it follows certain figures, then quickly cuts when they turn. This was surveillance. Possibly internal, possibly intelligence-based, possibly something darker. And if Meghan was the subject, or one of several. That means her presence on the yacht wasn't just a coincidence. It was noted, tracked, possibly arranged. Let's jump ahead. Second 029. New scene. Same yacht. Same night. The upper deck now, lit in gold. A small circle of men seated around a curved couch. Prince Andrew is among them, leaning forward, laughing, and beside him, someone Bauer hasn't yet identified publicly, but whom experts suggest may have ties to a known associate of Ghislaine Maxwell. Again, nothing scandalous on the surface. But then, audio kicks in. Very faint, muffled, but Bauer's team cleaned it up with enhancement software. A voice, possibly Andrew's, says, "She'll do fine. Just make sure she's not seen leaving with him." Silence. Then laughter. Then the footage cuts. Who was she? Was it Meghan? Was it another guest? Was it someone else entirely? We don't know. But in the context of everything we've now seen, the gesture, the tracking, the overlapping guest lists, the implications are too serious to ignore, especially considering that Bauer has a second clip, one he hasn't released, one his publisher is reportedly very cautious about. Some insiders claim it shows Meghan walking up the steps toward that very deck. Others say it includes a shot of Andrew gesturing toward her. Either way, if true, it confirms something the palace and Meghan's team desperately want buried. That their encounter wasn't incidental. It was part of something. Something bigger. Something organized. And maybe, just maybe, something neither of them ever expected to resurface. So what does the footage prove? Nothing criminal. Not directly. But what it does prove is that Meghan and Andrew were on the same yacht, the same night, in close enough proximity to be seen, acknowledged, and possibly surveilled. It proves Meghan was at a party she's never publicly mentioned, hosted by people she's never publicly admitted knowing, surrounded by names linked to scandals she's never addressed. It proves Andrew was present too, despite royal calendars that claim he was elsewhere. It proves the timelines match, the voices match, the faces match, and the implications? They're shattering, because they raise questions that neither camp wants to answer. And yet, they must. Because silence now sounds a lot like guilt. Still don't believe this matters? Then ask yourself, why are lawyers circling Bauer? Why are PR firms trying to shut down even mentions of the footage? Why is Meghan's camp offering zero comment, not even to deny? Why has Buckingham Palace completely ghosted every journalist asking about Andrew's whereabouts that summer? And why, after all these years, has no one addressed the one thing that ties them together? This frame, this second, this footage. Because it's real. It's time-stamped. And it doesn't care who wants it buried. But the most disturbing part comes at the very end. As the footage fades out, Bauer's team enhanced one final sequence. A pan over the guests as the party winds down. And near the edge of the pool, Meghan sits alone. Not smiling. Not talking. Just watching. And across from her, hidden behind a lattice railing, a camera flashes. Not from Bauer's angle. Not part of this footage. Another camera. Another observer. Which means someone else was documenting this night. And if that footage exists, the story we're telling now is only the beginning. Because Tom Bauer may have found the first clue, but someone else may have captured the whole thing. What if the most dangerous footage wasn't just recorded, but commissioned? That's the question Tom Bauer kept asking himself, over and over, as he stared at the digital clip frozen on his screen. The footage didn't feel casual. It wasn't shaky, rushed, or aimless. It wasn't a guest capturing memories. It wasn't some rich heir filming a party for laughs. This was intentional, framed, focused, structured, and as Bauer watched the camera linger on Meghan, then pivot silently toward Andrew, and then scan the room like an eye trained in surveillance, he realized something chilling. This wasn't filmed for fun. It was filmed for leverage. So who filmed it? To answer that, we need to go beyond the party. We need to understand the players behind the curtain, the billionaires, power brokers, and social architects who host these floating fortresses not just to flaunt wealth, but to consolidate control. Because yachts like the Seraphim aren't just luxury playgrounds. They're deal-making labs, intel-gathering operations, and, when necessary, pressure chambers. And the people who fund these parties, they don't just want memories. They want insurance. They film everything. Quietly, discreetly, sometimes with visible cameras, often with hidden ones. Why? To protect themselves. To have evidence. To control the narrative before someone else does. Because in these circles, everyone smiles in public and keeps the receipts in private. Bauer's investigation revealed a stunning detail. The footage was part of a collection, not a single clip, not a forgotten file, a vault, discovered during a years-long financial fraud probe into a European tech tycoon known only as L. A man with dual citizenship, 5 passports, and a record of hosting offshore influencer retreats, had his properties raided in 2022. During one such raid, authorities uncovered multiple hard drives. Most were encrypted, but one, labeled Summer Clients 07, was partially accessible. And that's where the clip surfaced. It was cataloged, numbered, tagged. Meghan Markle, Prince Andrew, Sardinia/the Seraphim. Mid-July. It wasn't a home video. It was evidence. Filed, stored, hidden, until someone passed it to Tom Bauer. And that's when everything exploded. So who filmed it? Sources close to Bauer suggest the operation was run by an Eastern European private security firm. The same firm known to provide event protection for Russian oligarchs, Gulf billionaires, and fallen Hollywood moguls. But here's the kicker. Their surveillance teams don't just provide security. They record behavior. Every movement, every face, every interaction. It's not just about protecting the yacht. It's about protecting the host. Because if someone ever steps out of line or dares to turn against them, there's a file, a timestamp, a clip, insurance. And Meghan? She was filed. Indexed. Which raises a terrifying possibility. Was Meghan's attendance at the party coincidence or design? Was she invited for networking? Or was she selected because someone thought she might be useful, valuable, leverageable? And if so, who was pulling the strings? Let's talk about the fixers. In elite circles, there's a role no one talks about openly. The fixer, not a manager, not an agent, not even a bodyguard, a connector. They know the right people. They get the right invitations. They solve problems before their headlines. And they often manage the people who attend events like this. Several of these fixers, now retired or disgraced, have appeared in Bauer's past books. And in cross-referencing Meghan's early social appearances with guest lists from yacht events, Bauer's team uncovered overlapping names. People who were present at multiple functions with Meghan Markle, Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew, and even associates of Harvey Weinstein. One fixer in particular, a woman Bauer refers to only as C, was active in Los Angeles and Dubai between 2006 and 2012. She's believed to have recruited women for high society weekends, events that promised connections, visibility, and luxury, but often delivered something more transactional. C was later linked to a blackmail operation involving hidden cameras on yachts. When her name appeared in metadata from the Seraphim footage, Bauer froze. Because that means the camera wasn't random. It was her crew. She'd been involved. Which leads to one chilling conclusion. Meghan may have been scouted. Now let's revisit the footage and ask, why was it hidden? Simple. Because it was dangerous. Not in 2007. But now. At the time, Meghan was just another actress. Andrew was still protected by royal privilege. The footage was shelved, filed, left as dormant leverage. But when Meghan became a duchess, when she married into the firm, when she gave that Oprah interview, slamming the very institution she'd once praised, that's when the footage became valuable. Not for blackmail, but for containment. Because people with footage like this, they don't want to use it. They want to own you. To remind you, you were there. You played the game. Don't turn on us, or we'll remind the world. And maybe that's why Meghan stayed silent for so long. Maybe that's why Andrew refused to cooperate with key inquiries. Maybe that's why both camps are now begging Bauer to stop. Because this footage, it isn't just history. It's a trapdoor. And if it opens, they both fall. But what if there's more? Bauer believes there is. In his own words, the clip I have is just a window. What's behind it is a vault. He suspects at least 3 more tapes exist. Different angles, different decks, different moments. One might show Meghan speaking to Andrew. Another may feature her with one of Epstein's known fixers. And a third, if rumors are true, could include audio of a conversation that changes everything. But where are they? Still locked in L's digital archive? Held by silent oligarchs who prefer leverage over exposure? Or already leaked to someone else? Because here's the terrifying reality. Once footage like this is known to exist, it never disappears. It's copied, duplicated, sold. And now, with the world watching, every second of that footage is a ticking bomb. And Meghan and Andrew? They don't know how long until it explodes. One final mystery, the courier. How did Bauer get the footage? He's refused to name the source. But insiders believe it came not from law enforcement, but from a journalist mole embedded in the investigation into someone who stumbled upon the footage, recognized Meghan, and saw an opportunity. They made a copy, smuggled it out, sent it, anonymously, to Bauer. Not for money, not for credit, but for truth. Because sometimes the story isn't about scandal. It's about accountability. And now, the footage is in the hands of the one man who won't be silenced. Which brings us to the real question. What happens when Bauer decides to go public? Because when he does, the names won't be protected, the titles won't matter, and the footage they buried will finally see the light. What happens when someone who built their empire on image suddenly loses control of the footage? Panic, not just fear. Strategic panic. That's what hit Meghan Markle's inner circle when word of the footage leaked. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a viral clip on social media. It wasn't a tabloid headline screaming in red font. No, it was something far more chilling. A phone call, private, untraceable, from someone who knew people, someone who'd seen it. And their message was brutally simple. He has it. That he? Tom Bauer. And within hours, according to insiders close to her U.S.-based legal team, Meghan's world went into full lockdown. Because this wasn't just a PR crisis. This was an exposure event. Meghan's lawyers didn't hesitate. They'd handled lawsuits before, splashy headlines, tabloids, false claims. They'd gone after the Mail on Sunday. They'd taken on online trolls. They'd issued cease and desist letters like party favors. But this was different. Because Bauer wasn't a gossip site. He wasn't a fan account or a rogue royal commentator looking for clicks. He was a reputation assassin with a spine of steel and a history of drawing blood, publicly, surgically, and legally. So they didn't threaten. They begged. The first move, contact through intermediaries. Bauer never got a letter. Not at first. Instead, his office received a friendly inquiry from a London legal firm with a reputation for handling sensitive, high-profile matters involving women of stature. The email was polite. Too polite. No accusations. No ultimatums. Just a simple request. We understand you may be in possession of footage that includes one of our clients in a private capacity during a non-public event. We'd like to discuss the potential ramifications of this footage being published out of context and how that might negatively affect ongoing charitable and humanitarian efforts. Translation? We're terrified. Let's make a deal, quietly. Bauer didn't respond. So they escalated. Within 48 hours, a well-known U.S. crisis PR firm entered the chat. This wasn't Meghan's usual team. This was next-level damage control. Think political campaigns. Think celebrity rehab scandals. Think billionaires caught on hot mics. They specialize in three things: denial, diversion, erasure. Their mission? Make sure no one ever sees that footage. Not through lawsuits. Those create noise. Not through threats. Those backfire. But through diplomacy. They offered meetings, coffee, private dinners, off-the-record chats in neutral cities, all under one goal. Let's find a way to make this footage disappear. But Bauer? He thrives on that kind of fear. He told a colleague, off the record, that the tone of their communications confirmed something far more damning than the footage itself. They knew it was real, and they weren't trying to dispute what it showed. They were just trying to contain it. Bauer knew he had leverage. More than that, he had validation. Because when someone like Meghan Markle, who's built her brand on controlling every pixel of her narrative, sends in the A-team without even seeing what you've got, it means they're not worried about context. They're worried about the truth. Then came the emotional appeal. It wasn't legal. It was personal. A message, not from Meghan herself, but from someone close. A woman in her circle. Someone who used to work as a stylist, now repositioned as a friend. She reached out to a mutual contact of Bauer's, claimed she was deeply concerned about the impact this leak would have on Meghan's mental health, even referenced past trauma, said this could undo years of healing, asked Bauer to be human. It was guilt, wrapped in empathy, laced with manipulation. And still, Bauer didn't flinch. Because if the footage were harmless, why appeal to pity? Why not just call it a fake and move on? Unless It wasn't fake, and the emotion was real. Meghan's team shifted tactics. They started prepping the narrative, just in case. Online influencers, suddenly quiet for months, began reappearing. Pro-Sussex blogs posted vague entries about deep fakes, misinformation attacks, and recycled footage being used to smear empowered women. One notorious Twitter account tweeted, "Watch out. They're going to try and destroy Meghan with out-of-context footage from her acting days. Don't fall for it." No mention of a yacht. No mention of Andrew. Just preemptive fog. It's a tactic known in PR as laying down chaff. Confuse the timeline. Introduce doubt. Seed counter theories early so the real story